have exhausted.
I'll do it. It's not a problem.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner.
Okay.
They have exhausted everyone else's. So
I think Mr. Conaway and I are the go-to people for the pledge.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with public participation. Dr. Joyner, Dr. White.
All right, let me just, ground rules. You have 2 minutes. When your 2 minutes are up, you may complete your sentence and end the comment.
Okay, right now we have no one raising their hand because of a technical issue, having trouble bringing Ms. Red Hannons into the meeting, working on that. So if there's someone else from the public who wishes to speak, please use the raise hand function now. Okay, Attorney King, I'm bringing you over as well as a panelist.
I should say actually before we start that Attorney King and Attorney Pinto are joining us as parliamentarians in Elia's absence, just in case there are questions that Elia would normally respond to. They're gonna help us with that.
Pat looks like she's in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Joyner, are you ready? We do
Yes,
have
I am.
someone. Okay. Our first speaker this evening is Heiklis Williams. Ms. Williams, you may speak.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I hope everyone is doing well this summer day. And I am back with you because it has been a full year since the Wage Equity Committee was formed. And we have done our diligent work in this area. We had the committee made some recommendations to the board and to the New Haven Public Schools. And we have so far have done a great deal of work, and we have not been able to establish any of the recommendations that was made by the subcommittee for the things that we had asked, which was like $1,500 in stipend, a freeze in the health insurance cost share, a raise in the extra duty rate to $1,840, and to move some of the people from some of the groups from the group 1 over into group 3. So we had meetings, we had many meetings. I submitted to the board an email over the weekend so that everybody would have enough time to look at it. And I submitted all the findings and all the good stuff we did. And we're hoping that since the NHPS said it was not feasible for them to grant us any of those recommendations, that the board itself would hold to its integrity and at least honor the recommendation that we have submitted, or ensure that it becomes a part of our next contract negotiation. So I'm looking for a favorable outcome of this, and thank you guys for your time and attention.
Our next speaker is Teresa Johnson. Ms. Johnson, you may speak. Ms. Johnson?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. So two things real quick. I just wanted to kind of point out, we're still asking for a thorough investigation of the Catherine Brenner situation. I didn't get a chance to see the agenda, so I'm not sure if it's on there, but I think it's not. So if it's not, we're still asking for that. And then number 2, and that's from a public request from the various groups that met a couple of weeks ago. And then number 2, I'm not sure why, but last week or 2 weeks ago, Dr. Tracy had mentioned that she has 2 places of residency. And I'm just trying to ask for some verification of that, because legally you have to be living in one place for 6 months and 1 day for it to be considered a residency. So we're asking for proof of that address, and she wanted to bring it up. We'd like to see some proof. Thank you.
Our next speaker is listed as Kirsten. Please state your full name.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Kirsten Hopes McFadden. And again, we are still, it was nice to get an apology, I guess, for some people 2 weeks ago, but that's not the only thing that we asked for from the community. We asked for a full investigation of what is going on and what happened at Brennan Rogers. And we also want to know, since things have been swept under the rug, what other things have been swept under the rug, and we want an investigation of those things as well, because these things, racist incidents should not be allowed to happen in the New Haven public school system. And then the next thing I want to talk about, I missed most of the meeting that occurred for the reopening of the schools, but I wanted to know, I did hear Mayor Elicker talk about today and the governor about vaccines, and I want to know whether or not public schools are going to mandate vaccines, and if for anyone that's 12 and over, including employees, for those who are not medically unable to get the vaccine. Also, are we going to have a mask mandate continued on into the fall? And just pretty much, what are your updates as regarding to or reopening of the schools? Thank you.
Madam President, that concludes all those with raised hands.
Thank you, Dr. White. And so we'll go into the action items. The approval of the board meeting minutes for July 12th. Mr. Wilcox.
I move we approve the board minutes of July 12th.
Mr. Wilcox, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on the approval of the minutes. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
I haven't had a chance to review them, so I'm going to abstain.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so the minutes are passed. Superintendent's report, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, board and members of the community. We were able to carry out interview processes and trying to fill in the gaps so that folks can start meeting with their administrators and making plans for the new school year. We have moved Miss Cara Campo from a magnet resource teacher at Bishop Woods Executive Academy to assistant principal of the same school. Brianna Evans, Sacred Heart University, a magnet resource teacher at King Robinson Magnet School to assistant principal, King Robinson Magnet School. Joan Ferris, who has been a magnet resource at Conte Westfield School, to being coordinator to replace Regina Carini, who was moved up to assistant principal of another school. So these are the administrative appointments that we have, and we have a couple of retirements that are going through also on our sheet. We have Mr. Michael Krakow, who has resigned from the New Haven Public Schools, and Miss Noreen Polio, who has resigned as a TESOL teacher. So with that said, I'm asking for the board to approve the personnel report, and then I'll be able to bring in the few hires in administrative management to say just a few quick words.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Mr. Wilcox?
I move we approve the action items on the personnel report.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. Just 2 points. First point is, I noticed with these promotional appointments, I saw movement within each of these schools, which I'm happy to see. I wish we had given the same consideration to Brennan Rogers when we were making moves over there. So I'm not quite sure what the difference is and why some folks are able to move up within their school and others aren't. So I just like to put that on the record. I'm a little surprised by that. In terms of the information only list, I'm still not. I mean, I think the state statutes say that we do any hires and fires, that we approve those. I assume that obviously a resignation is not a fire, or retirement isn't a fire, but a retirement comes with benefits and so on. And I'm not quite sure why those items are not on our approval list. So I like to get a legal opinion from our board attorney as to how we distinguish what items are going to be on our action item list and which items are going to be on information only. Thank you, Madam President. I request that by the next meeting if possible.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Dr. Joyner?
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Conway?
for purposes of information, a person cannot be prohibited from retiring. And once a certified employee does retire, it's now in the hands of the state regarding their state retirement benefits. Our certified staff are employees of the state. And as a consequence, you can't prohibit them from retiring. And secondly, once they do retire, then the state is responsible for fringe benefits. City is responsible for health benefits. So Mr. Golson makes a good point there.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. I'll ask Attorney Alexiadis to provide that information in writing when he returns. Mr. Conway and then Mr. Wilcox.
Yeah, I just have one question for Dr. Tracy. Dr. Tracy, on the first of all, congratulations on all the new appointments to principals. But on the appointment to Conti West Hill, the coordinator appointment, are those, those are we still have coordinators?
Yes, we do still have coordinators. Coordinators, or 3 coordinators were approved last year by the board. One of the 2 of the coordinators move up to AP position. And the one for County West Hills we're replacing, because in that place was an assistant principal, and we decided to go with a coordinator instead of an assistant principal.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I was wondering why it was switched. I just was wondering why it was switched from assistant principal to coordinator, and I just didn't know those were still around. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And let me respond to Mr. Golson. Mr. Golson, these were not just internal promotional. These were people who applied for, got interviewed, and the team that interviewed them sent them up for consideration. So I need to clarify that. Thank you.
Dr. Tracy, Mr. Wilcox?
I was just going to agree with my colleague that it would be great if we could get a legal opinion just as to what if there's other categories that should be on the approval versus the information only items. I think that would be great. So I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
Okay, permit me to bring in Ms. Cara Campo if she is in the audience.
Hold on, we didn't vote on the personnel.
Oh, you
yet.
haven't. I'm sorry.
It was seconded. We had a discussion, and so now
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on approving the action items on the personnel report. Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
The students are not in, right, Dr. White? They're not in the waiting room or anything?
They are not on.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, so the personal report passed. Go ahead, Dr. Tracy.
Okay, thank you. Please promote Dr. White, Cara, Brianna, and Joan.
They're all
first.
in. They're in.
Okay, so let me start with Cara Campo. Many of you know that I have been supervisor for years of schools in New Haven public schools. I've had the pleasure of working with Cara Campo, who has done a phenomenal job in her building and bringing forth, before they even became a federal magnet school, she has brought on a lot of innovative work into the school itself, and has been there as a major support to the principals that came and went in her building. And so Cara served New Haven Public Schools since 2001 and began her career as a grade 3 teacher at East Rock School, continued her teaching at Bishopwood School, and has worked in numerous roles, including literacy interventionist and magnet resource teacher. So we want to welcome Cara. Cara, to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Tracy, and thank you to the executive team, President Rivera, and members of the board. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this opportunity to serve as the assistant principal at Bishopwood School. As Dr. Tracy said, I've been with New Haven Public Schools for over 18 years now, and the majority of that time has been at Bishopwoods, and it is truly a second home to me. At Bishopwoods, our motto is, yes, I can, and I intend to bring that energy and mindset to the role as I support Flo Chrissy, our new principal, and the entire Bishopwoods community. So thank you again for this opportunity to serve the students and families of New Haven. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Campo.
Congratulations.
The next one is Brianna Evans. Brianna Evans was born and raised in New Haven and attended New Haven Public Schools at the now defunct Timothy Dwight School. She also went to Augusta Lewis Troop School and then Hyde Leadership Academy for high school, and currently she resides in New Haven, Connecticut with her daughter, Faith Lauren. Just a little bit about Brianna, and I'm aging myself. Brianna was my third grade student at the now defunct Timothy Dwight School. So things come around, and I can remember and just see that little face of Brianna in those days, very interested in learning. We took them to Washington, D.C. and all these different places, and she remembered very well her experience as a student at Dwight School. So Brianna is the STEM Magnet School Resource Person at King Robinson School currently. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Human Development and Family Studies from the University of Connecticut, and then a master's degree in elementary education from Southern, and then intermediate 092 certification from Sacred Heart University. So Brianna is very technologically oriented. I watched her working with students from across the world in her STEM project not too long ago, managing all these different computers. I said, wow, she was very into this STEM work at the school. So I'm glad she's there to make sure that that work does not fall by the wayside. So thank you, Brianna, and welcome. Where's Brianna? I haven't seen her.
She's at the bottom with those nice braids.
Okay, that's Brianna. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to the board. Thank you to you, Dr. Tracy, and thank you to Principal Dr. Johnson. This is an amazing opportunity for me and my family, and I just look forward to continuing my work with the King Robinson family. It's been a great 3 years, and I'm looking forward to many more. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
The next person I see she's on here is Joan Ferris. I almost say Joan Bonanno, but it's Joan Ferris. Joan Ferris currently serves as a magnet resource teacher at County Westfield School. She was raised in New Haven, attended Fairfield University, where she earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration. She worked the summer school program in New Haven and quickly fell in love with the teaching. And then she continued her studies, earning her master's degree in elementary education from the University of New Haven. She was hired as a 5th grade teacher at County West Hills and has not left County West Hills since then. She fell in love with County West Hills. Brianna has her 6th year in education leadership from Southern Connecticut State University, 17 years of working in New Haven public schools in varied capacities. Thank you for coming aboard, Ms.
Hey, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Education members, Superintendent Dr. Eileen Tracy and her leadership team for this wonderful opportunity to have me continue my work at County West Hills. I was raised in New Haven. I have a deep connection to County for spending most of my time there, but also growing up in the neighborhood. My family still resides there. So I just come from a family that loves serving New Haven. It stems from my parents. They had 5 children and 4 of us have served New Haven and continue to serve New Haven. And it stems from their love of the city and running a business for many years in New Haven, 47 plus years. So I'm just honored and humbled to continue my family commitment to the city. I'd also like to thank the numerous administrators I've served under through the years, and especially to the most current administrators I've been under, Ms. Carini, Mr. McCarthy, and Ms. Diane Spence for their encouragement, mentorship, their guidance. And I'd also like to thank my family for their support. And thank all of you. And I'm just so excited about my job ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations to all of you. Yeah. Okay.
Congratulations.
That is my personal report, Miss President Rivera. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Dr. Joyner,
Dr. Tracy, as you know, when you go to a really good farmer's market, you're getting organic vegetables and fruit, homegrown. And when I look at the appointments that you've made since you've been the superintendent, I'd like to commend you for your taste and the fact that we have so many organic administrators, people who were born and raised in the city, whose families are greatly connected to the city, and who clearly love this place and what they do. So kudos to you, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. We'll move on to Finance and Operations Committee, Mr. Wilcox.
Thank you. Before we get started with the action items here, are there any of these action items people would like separated out? And while you are thinking about that, I'm going to be separating one out here. I'm going to be recusing myself. But so if anybody else have any ones, just please let me know. As you all know, I have a conflict of interest here regarding Clifford Beers. My wife works on a federally funded grant project for them, so I recuse myself on any discussions or votes, and I've asked Mr. Conaway to handle the movement of that item.
Okay, and separating that item, I'd like to move that we accept agreement number 1 with Clifford Beers Guidance Clinic to provide intervention services and mental health support for Head Start students, families, and staff from August 25th, 2020 to June 25th, 2022, and in an amount not to exceed $75,000.
For a second.
Second.
Seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the Clifford Beers contract. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Hughes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Conaway,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so that motion passes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Conaway. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion, and that is that we approve the remaining action items for that the Finance and Operations Committee recommended approval of, which is the 1 abstract, the remaining 11 agreements, and the 4 contracts.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on the F&O items. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Conaway,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so that motion passes.
All right, thank you. And we have one more action item here, and that is the approval of a collective bargaining agreement that's outlined in the memo that was posted on the website and included in the board packets. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the collective bargaining agreement as outlined in our agenda.
Second,
Second.
Dr. Joyner, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Bolton,
Just a question. I'm assuming that all of these trades have already approved this agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the information we have in the memo that does say that this agreement has been ratified with the union members, and once we approve it, it'll go on to the Board of Alders. So that's the
Thank you.
information that's been presented.
Thank you.
any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the approval of the collective bargaining agreement. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Conaway,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so that motion passes. Okay, superintendent's report, Dr. Tracy.
Oh, you got there that fast? Oh.
Yeah, we're moving right along.
That's moving on. Not that fast, thank you. So I just need to report, I gave the board some preliminary update of where we are and things. We still continue our chief financial officer search, and we are not being very successful at this time. Lisa had reached out to the company to let them know that we may have to move on to another search group because we're not coming up with anything since we had agreed to giving them the opportunity to do the search for us. Summer school, Ms. Gemma Lumpkin and Lisa Petresmon. I don't know if Lisa is on here. I know Gemma had a previous engagement. Is Lisa Petresmon on here? Dr. White?
Yes,
Lisa?
I'm promoting her to a panelist now.
Yeah. In the meantime, promote Mr. Carl Jackson too.
Good evening.
Hi, Lisa. Lisa, just a very, very quick update of summer school, which we're coming to a close very quickly. It seemed like we just started working out the kinks, and here we are, ready to close. So go ahead, Lisa, just a quick update.
Okay, here's our update. This is our last full week of our summer fun, summer learning camp. Our students, this week, we have celebrations of learning throughout the district from all 12 schools. Fairhaven had theirs on Friday, and wonderful and proud and welcoming work that the kids have done. Also, we have a culminating activity on Friday, which is the superintendent's field day, and all schools will be participating in activities for the morning, which include mostly physical and outside games, also some indoor activities, and we are quickly coming to an end. It's just the source kids have been, the older kids have also been participating and engaging in activities such as rocket making and journalism, and they really have enjoyed this experience. Oh, one more thing, the celebrity guests that we have coming into our classrooms are amazing. A harp player, music, poetry, and little scientists every single day doing activities with kids at their grade level to spark their curiosity. So that is our report on summer school, and our afternoon program continues to improve with activities planned for the afternoon.
Thank you very much, Miss Lisa Petrosimone. I wanted Gemma to say what was happening in the high school component, in particular, the social justice program that she has been running. We have seen, I've been to the different camps across the system, and we have seen the effects of the work and the students. Gemma wanted to share that of these students, especially, we could not find them during the COVID pandemic, and these students have been sought after. We have about 66 of them attending the social justice program, and there's 90% attendance rate. And they love coming to school. And so a lot has been going on. Just about all the high school offer summer program, whether it's Summer Bridge for 9th grade or it's Credit Recovery Retrieval program. And this week there's graduation. I think they send out some invites to board members around the graduation going on for high schoolers who went through summer school. So thank you so much.
We'll be at Metropolitan at 10 o'clock on Friday.
Okay. And Mr. Carl Jackson, I shared with the board just a quick forecast of where we are with the transportation situation that is looming. Is Mr. Jackson here just to say a few words? Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tracy, and thank you to the board. So we are planning for the fall, and there's not going to be many changes from last year, but it's just a few highlights that students are still going to be required to wear face masks. If a student doesn't have a mask, then they'll be offered a mask by the bus driver. We're still going to maintain social distancing when boarding buses. It should be 6 feet, and if someone is accompanying a student, they will have to also maintain 6 feet distance. If they're also accompanying a student on the bus, they also have to wear a face mask. Bus drivers will wear a safe mask, and they will be overseeing the boarding and the lighting. Loading in the morning, they're going to be boarding from the front, and alighting. They'll be boarding from back to front. So when kids get on, they'll go all the way to the back, and then they'll load until we pull up the bus, to the front. And in the afternoon, it'll be reversed. Social distancing will be maintained as best we can. There's no set guidelines, but we're shooting for 50%. The buses are going to be disinfected 2 times a day in between the morning and the evening runs, and they're still going to be using the EPA registered material DS1, similar to last year. Managing expectations, meaning that the first few weeks of school, it takes some time for the buses to get in sync with the road conditions, and we're going to have a lot of new drivers. We'll be getting student data for new registered kids, so it'll take some time to get them on board. And teachers know this, administrators know this, and we'll work through it. What's important to the schools and the parents is the bus cards. The bus cards will be mailed out. This year, the bus cards will be in Spanish and English. And we've been working internally with our own print shop, and the kids have been helping with this. And we have a 2-language card. So that's going to be a little different. The bus cards will be mailed out, like I said, a week before school starts. The routes are being developed right now. And at the time that the routes are developed in about 2 weeks, they'll match bus drivers to the routes, which brings us to the challenge. You may have heard that there is a national bus driver shortage. This shortage is driven by COVID and the competitive nature of hiring bus drivers right now. But First Student is taking a lot of measures to try to improve the situation. Right now, they have nearly 300 bus drivers committed and about 46 bus drivers that are in some phases of the training. They've also been working with DMV to try to see if they can shorten the time to get a bus driver, from training to actually driving buses. They're advertising in all forms of media, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, they're doing it, including radio advertising. We've even chipped in and helped them and did a parent link. We sent out a parent link working with Danny Diaz, and that yielded at least 25 applications, and we're going to do that again. But at the time when they sync the routes with the drivers, we'll know if we'll have any shortages. Right now, we're not anticipating it, but it could happen because of the competitive nature of hiring bus drivers right now. But I will say that my staff, as well as First Student, have been working very closely, and we talk on a daily basis to try to see if there's anything new or creative that we can do to mitigate any problems coming for the next school year. But I think that, if anything comes up, we'll work through certainly the executive team. But right now, we're moving forward for a regular school year.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Ms. Hannons, I was looking through my packet. Somehow we inadvertently left out the ESSER update. Apologize about that, but just say quickly what we're doing, and then we'll send the update to the board.
All right. Good evening. I'll just quickly go through the presentation. Good evening. It's always a great opportunity to present to the board. I'll quickly go through the presentation that I have for you. If I can view screen.
You need to.
Yeah, I see it. I'm going to enlarge it. Yeah. It should be coming up now. And this is an update on the ESSER presentation. ESSER is our American Rescue Plan. This is the third installment. Remember, we had CARES Act 1, then we had ESSER 2, and so this is the third installment.
What's happening, Jones?
All right. Just as a reminder, our allocation from the federal government for ESSER has increased actually to $80,017,233. It's an increase of $56,164 from the original allocation. The state did notify us of that. Just as a requirement, LEAs must reserve 20% of the allocation as a set aside for learning loss. And that was indeed done with the for this grant. That's about $16 million. The purpose of this grant is to respond to students' social, emotional, and academic needs and those that were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. As a reminder, stakeholder engagement, we've held a series of focus group sessions throughout the March and June, and we were able to reach over 5,400 stakeholders to engage them in the process. Every school matters. So this presentation is really an update on the funds that we are allocating to our schools. As we've talked to different superintendents across the state, they really find this to be very innovative, that instead of us making top-down decisions on how to leverage all of these funds, giving the schools funds, and then determining with their stakeholders how best to invest these funds in their schools for improvement. People are really, really galvanized around that idea, and our schools have been as well. So there's $10,860,000 that we have allocated to our schools. And so some of those ideas that have come out of our schools as we look at learning acceleration is the need to have outdoor learning classrooms. Many of our schools are making investments in this area. Of course, we're looking at career pathways and expanding them, as well as dual enrollment. Also looking at extended day academies. So that's our summer school, our after school, twilight school for high school, making those investments in those schools as well. Of course, we're always looking for tutors and materials and instructional supplies to constantly engage our students. One of the creative ideas that many of our schools are looking at is having visiting artists come to their schools to meet with students. These visiting artists may focus on art one month or poetry another month. So similar to what Ms. Petra Simone just described is happening with summer school. Home libraries. We also are investing in home libraries for our families in many of our schools so that we can improve the level of books, increase the level of books that are at home with our students, and then also professional development and instructional strategies. Under family and community connections, many of our schools are excited about the idea of running parent workshops within our schools, meeting with parents to determine what the ideas and topics should be presented to parents to help them better serve their students at home, and also strengthen the connection with our families. Community partnerships is an area that we're also looking to strengthen. And one key idea that was very interesting is many of our schools are investing in their student councils. They want to have them implement projects that affect the school community as well. Under priority 3, which is social emotional well-being of students and staff, most of the schools are investing in wellness activities for students as well as staff. They're looking at purchasing of sensory items and flexible seating to make sure students are engaged appropriately in instructional spaces so that we're meeting their needs as well, so they can truly engage in the educational process. In technology, of course, we have laptops, the Chromebooks, the graphic tables. Many of our schools are investing in part-time tech staff. As we've increased our footprint with the amount of technology in our school, we need someone to help service them. The technology that's on the ground in the schools, but also to provide support to our families and students as well. And so we're also investing in makerspace items, internet safety workshops, and in software licenses for instructional support as well. Finally, in building safe and healthy schools, of course, we're looking at PPE. Some of the schools will also be investing in welcoming schools professional development for staff to make sure schools are an inviting and welcoming area for our families as well. So these are just some of the investments that our schools are using to leverage their funds on the ground level for our ESSER, and we wanted to share that information with you and hear any feedback that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hannans. And that is from the school. We also have where we're doing some infrastructure work. We have to look at where pretty soon we're going through, again, NIAC accreditation for our pre-K classes. And so we have to make sure that the playgrounds that we have are up to par for that accreditation coming up. So some of those funds will also be geared towards making sure the playgrounds are fixed up. We also have monies that will be put into improving the HVAC systems in the schools that maybe need some more improvement other than what we have done recently. So we have geared funding towards that and towards more IT work because, you know, we have to replenish those computers. They're now in the process of imaging the computers that came back and also looking at what cannot be used after they were used for a whole year. And so we have to replace those that are not usable. So a lot is going into this, and I want to thank Ms. Hannons for taking the initiative to take on this work in the absence of a CFO, trying to get this grant written, and she has done a phenomenal job doing that.
Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. I actually had a question for related to transportation. There is a memo in our folders that talks about a driver shortage, and having to be more competitive in getting drivers. I just wanted to make sure that, or ask the question, will that shortage end up costing us additional money while we're trying to be competitive? In other words, if the company has to hire folks at higher wages in order to get them on board, will that cost be transferred to us, or is that a cost that the company has to eat based on their contract and their bid to us?
It's a very good question, Mr. Golson. Thanks for asking that. I will have Carl get back to you or to the board with some answers to that. He may not be able to answer that right now. We'll have to probe to see where that is going.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
And seeing no further discussion, we'll move into the president's report, and it'll be a quick one tonight.
Madam President, point of order.
Go ahead, Mr. Bolton.
I noticed that we're not going to have a students report again because they're not here.
Students are not here.
I'm wondering why, and if there's something that we could do to be helpful to improve their attendance. I mean, I think that was part of when we first started talking about bringing on these students. We talked about giving them a support system so that they can participate and contribute. I really want to hear their voices. So I hope that we're looking at figuring out how to improve their attendance at the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. I don't know why they're not at the meeting. I didn't receive an email letting me know that they would be absent and why. And so we'll need to, I guess we'll need to have some conversations with them and figure out some things. Go ahead, Mr. Bolton.
Do we have an administrator? I thought we had an administrator who was kind of the liaison with the students. Do we have that, or is that just during the elections?
It was just during the elections.
Could we consider having someone kind of sort of liaison with them, either a board member or an administrator, to work with them to help them to improve attendance?
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can.
Yes, Mr. Goldson, there is supposed to be a board member who is supposed to be a mentor to each of the students. And then also through our Title IX coordinator who works with the student council, and then myself as having most of the high schools, will work to check in with the students to make sure they'll be able to attend. But the board should also appoint a mentor for each of our students.
I also think this is the last week of summer school, and many of them may have projects they're finishing to get their credit recovery. It's the last, or retrieval. This is the last week of summer schools. That may impact them this week.
Thank you.
Okay. So for the president's report, like I said, it would be quick. I mentioned earlier that Attorney Mooney is out of the country. Attorney Alexiadis is away for a few days. This is why we didn't schedule executive session to continue discussions around the superintendent's evaluation. However, we need to complete an evaluation in some shape or form, and I'm committed to the evaluation happening this year. So upon Attorney Mooney's return, we'll continue to meet with Dr. Tracy to discuss the evaluation goals and the process, and then we'll bring it to discussion in executive session with a timeline. So we can continue those discussions when the attorneys return, since they've been intimately, Attorney Mooney has been intimately involved with this. Thank you. Let's start, Mr. Wilcox.
Yes, thank you. The Head Start committee, we met last week. A couple things I want to point out that the board should be aware of, and also the public. The biggest thing is they are in heavy recruitment mode, not only for the Head Start program, but for the school readiness program. So they are employing some people to help sign up folks. There is a whole advertising blitz happening now through all manner of media and on some bus wrap and some other ways of getting the word out. I've also asked Ms. Derwin to send to all the board members the flyer. I just got a copy of their flyer that they're putting out there now in English and Spanish. So I've asked them to forward that to the entire board so that the rest of us can put it out in any of our social networks. Just as a reminder for anybody in the public listening, the Head Start program is a free Head Start program, and the school readiness is a sliding scale and some free portions available in that. So the goal of the district is to not have any barrier to a child having a pre-K experience, and I'm sure we all are in support of that. So that is happening, and there are people available to help sign up and manage the paperwork as part of the process. So the second thing I'll mention is that there's continued progress on the school-based health clinic possibility for the Mayo School. And so that's continuing on. So I'm hoping we'll have some more details of that. But there is funding available through the Head Start program to outfit the space with the equipment that it would need in order to do that. And this would be very helpful for us in meeting our requirements for all the various health requirements that that Head Start has in terms of immunizations and physicals and things like that. So that is moving forward. There's no word yet as to when that might actually open, but that is moving forward. And then just the last thing I'll just mention, I was thinking after the meeting that I'm extremely confident in the leadership of the program. Just want to thank Ms. Derwin and also Pam Jefferson. I think that the program's in good hands. I think it was in good hands before, but I'm just lots of indicators that they are moving forward and getting ready for this next school year and making sure that all are on board in making it the best program as possible. So I just wanted to mention that. So, and that's the Head Start report.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Seeing no raised hands, we can move on to Citywide School Building Committee report.
Yes, there's no report because we did not meet in between here. So the next meeting is on August 12th at 4:30.
Thank you. Finance and operations.
The only thing I'll mention with finance and operations is that we are continuing to schedule items into our fall calendar in terms of reports that we're going to be requesting from the district or topics that we need to look into in addition to the series 3000 policies. There's several others. So just if there's something that people think that the Finance and Operations Committee needs to take a look at between now and the end of this calendar year, to please let the committee send an email to the committee and also to Dr. Tracy.
Mr. Wilcox. Okay, I guess we'll be skipping over the governance report. Dr. Jackson is not at the meeting tonight. So I'm sure that second reading for policy 5188 will come through for our next board meeting. Facility naming report, same. Dr. Jackson's not in. Teaching and learning, Dr. Joyner.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to give a shout out to the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction and all the content area supervisors, because they are dealing with some very complex material at a very complex time. What we're trying to do now is something that the board has never done before, and that is to develop some robust policy on teaching and learning. And it really flows around language development, reading, writing, and thinking across the content areas. I guess we're trying to educate, deliberate. And so at our last meeting, I would be remiss if I didn't extend my sympathy to our social studies curriculum person. She could not be there. Unfortunately, her father passed away on the same day. And she had talked to me that morning and she wanted to be there. And I said, this should be the last thing on your mind, because her father was in hospice at the time. And so to Sandra Clark and her family, I'm sure that I speak for the board and extending our sympathy and our support for you in this time of difficulty. And so she was going to present on the model curriculum for Black and Puerto Rican studies. And the thing about it, I'm sure that Mr. Golson can say amen to this. New Haven has been doing this stuff for 50 years. And at Hill House in the late 60s, they started the Black studies and Caribbean studies, not only in history, but also in literature as well. And so we're going to honor the curriculum that the state has, but we're also going to not stop doing what we're doing and what we've been doing well in this arena. And so they're going to be piloting the units. And we want to create a policy that will make it very clear that when you take a course in New Haven, you're going to be a critical thinker across the curriculum. You're going to be able to write well within the context of the content area and also generally speaking. And that you can deliberate using evidence to make points and substantiate positions. So we're really working on multiple levels of policy around that area. And we have some sample policies from the Department of Education, where they've given contracts across the country for districts to develop policy to support reading, writing, and thinking. And generally under area of assessment guidelines, instructional time, instructional grouping and scheduling, instructional materials and programs, classroom instructional practices, professional development, and administrative practices. So that's a deep, deep policy. And it's going to be top down, bottom up, as has been all of our planning, which is a principle of the Comer model. And we have been working for the past since Ms. Conway has been on the board, we have been working with teachers, assistant principals, paraprofessionals, and central office staff to try to generate the knowledge necessary to create policy that's in the best interest of the school district and its children. So we're going to probably have a meeting to start thinking about drafting some things over the next couple of weeks. As far as monitoring what goes on in the classroom, the greatest evidence of what students are doing is the quality of the work that they do. So if you see a research paper or any kind of assessment document, that will tell you something about the quality of work as well as the quality of student response. And then the last thing is that we're working on a vocabulary initiative that will look at content-based vocabulary as well as general academic vocabulary. That's something that Dr. Tracy is really high on. It's something that we did as principals to great effect. And we have plenty of expertise in the district that can help us do this. And so we really do have to put teaching and learning front and center in everything everything we do, because that's why we exist. So I'm really pleased with this past year. I'm really pleased with the work and support of our assistant superintendent and the content area people. We have some of the best anywhere. And all we have to do is give them the support they need and the encouragement they need, and we can rock some worlds. Thank you.
Dr. Joyner, thank you for your report. I'm having a thought. Would you be okay in working with the two board member students, the student board members?
Well, I would love to. I was a high school teacher. I was a college. I taught college students from freshman year all the way through doctoral students, and certainly I'd be glad to do that.
Okay. Let me, Mr. Wilcox raise his hand. I'm just going to see what he wants to say about it.
It was unrelated to that thought.
Okay. All right. So I think if you're okay with doing that, it would be great if you could work with the two students.
I'll reach out to both of them tomorrow. I just don't have the young lady's phone number. I do speak with the young man quite a bit.
Okay.
So
Dr. White, can you forward? Do you have Ms. Ramon's?
Yes, I'll
contact
forward
information?
Ms. Ramon's information.
And Dr. White, I'd like for you to work with me if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Wilcox, you had a question on the report?
Yeah, I just want to say I had a chance to attend much of the teaching and learning meeting, and just a pitch to everybody on the board. I know we're all so busy, and this school board takes a huge amount of time, but I just enjoy popping into that meeting when I can, just to hear things related to education, that the good planning that's happening, and hearing the stuff that's coming into play for this next year was refreshing. So if nothing else, you might want to just double check what some of these agendas are if you haven't been able to see them recently, just to kind of get a real feel for the stuff that's getting lined up for the next year. So thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions or comments. We can move on to the food service task group. Mr. Conway?
Yes, the food service task group is working real hard, and so is the staff. So I'd like to thank the staff for the work that they're doing this summer. And the main thing that we've been discussing is food allergy. And we want to certainly work out the specifics, and we've been putting plans and having lots of discussions about how that's going to roll out this fall, and how we're going to implement that, how we're going to get that down to the classrooms and throughout the schools, and just have a consistent policy that we could roll out. The other thing that we talked about is summer meals, and we're having some staffing difficulties with staffing that, but it's almost over. So we're looking to just help Gail with getting staff for the fall with food services. But they're still doing a great job. And then the last thing that we're talking about is working on the 3,000 policy situation, or updating the policies. And Mr. Wilcox has taken a leadership role around that. And so those are the three things that we're really talking about: food allergies, rolling out the finishing the summer programs, rolling out the fall programs, and the policies. So that's where we're at. That all the minutes are on the website, and we have a meeting coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Don't see any raised hands, so we can go right into the compensation equity committee report.
Yeah, we did have our meeting with administration, and unfortunately, we couldn't we couldn't find the resources to do the recommendations that we wanted to do. We clearly found out there's some inequities across the board,
Inequities.
Inequities, particularly with the pairs with lowest paid in the in the state, and they're very component. We're going to continue to push to try to find stipends for them, or some sort of raises. We did agree that we're going to look into a pay increase for the part-timers, and again, that's research. Nothing has been promised. Maybe a 50 cent or $1 raise for part-timers. There's a lot of them, so that could cost a lot of money. But one of the things that we're certainly, if nothing comes out of this, until the next negotiations, we certainly, have a lot of evidence, and negotiations should be very, very, very different than they were the last round. Miss Williams and her team, they're going to continue to push. We'll get a final report out as it relates to this piece of it, and we'll move on. But pay equity is really it's really a thing that we need to just keep our mind and our and we need to just we're gonna have to at some point put our money where our mouth is with these folks, because they certainly deserve a raise, the cost of living increase.
Thank
So
you,
that's
Mr. Conway. Thank you for your work on the committee. Mayor Elicker and then Mr. Bolton.
Last meeting, we talked about actually seeing some specific proposals with financial impact. Like if the part-timers were moved to whatever it is, 1350 or 14 or 1450, and those different permutations, and how that financial impact, the overall financial impact, how significant it would be. Has there been any work done on that?
Yeah, there's been work done on it, and at this point, Mayor Elicker, we just be spinning our wheels, because it's a lot of money. There's work, there's documentation on that. Dr. Tracy could answer that. We do not have a CFO right now, so just to push out that type of stuff, it takes a lot of time. So, but we've taken this thing I think I've taken as far as I could, and I'm not happy with the results, and I know Miss Williams and her team, but we'll just keep pushing ahead. I mean, we could get that out, but if the money's not there, from what I understand, we can't do anything with it. So that's where I'm at with it.
Can we, again, like to request that we're shown the financial impact? A lot of money. What is a lot of money? Is that $1 million? Is it $1.5 million? What's the impact? And what is the impact of raising by 50 cents, by $1, by $1.50? And looking at all those different impacts is helpful for us to actually make an educated assessment here.
I think I remember, just to answer that really quickly and not really answering it. I think I remember Phil Penn having done something like that a while ago, and I see that Matt Wilcox has his hand up, being finance committee chair. He probably has some information, but hold that thought for a second, Matt, while I go to Mr. Bolton.
I'll yield to Mr. Wilcox. I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Just as a point of information, we did at the last Finance and Operations meeting ask the superintendent to have the financial work done of what the implications would be if we had a policy in New Haven public schools that minimum wage is Connecticut minimum wage plus 50 cents an hour, or Connecticut minimum wage plus $1 an hour. So we did ask for that information. Administration said that they would be able to get that to us, but there is, without a CFO, that analysis might be slowed down, but we did ask for it, and we will keep it on the agenda until we get the information to be shared with all the board members.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. I got to tell you, this is so frustrating. As Ms. Highcliffe mentioned at her opening statements, it's been over a year now that this committee was formed to actually get this information. We had a CFO on board when we formed that committee, and we still don't have the information. And, Mr. Conaway said, apparently it doesn't seem like it's the right time. When is the right time? I mean, we're getting more money than we've ever seen in this organization, and I don't understand why these people that are working directly with our students, these part-timers particularly, are not being prioritized. And that's what it really comes down to. It's coming down to priorities. We seem to find money for everything else that we have to do here, and raises for everybody else except for the part-timers. And it's gotten beyond frustrating now to continue to hear, after a year of this committee being formed, that we still do not have the financials. I just don't understand that. It shouldn't take more than a couple of days to put that together. I mean, we know how many part-timers we have. We know what jobs they do. We know how many hours they put in. It's a spreadsheet. It's a simple spreadsheet. So I just, these continued excuses of not having the information yet after a year, and not having the resources when we seem to have resources for everything else, and that this is still not the right time. It's never going to be a better time than it is now with the resources that we're getting. And I know this is going to fall on deaf ears, and in the next meeting we're going to hear the same stuff. So, and now it's that we don't have a CFO, so we can't get the information. It's frustrating, and I mean, I don't know how many times I can say that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golds, Mr. Wilcox, and then Mr. Conway.
Just as a point of information, the Mr. Penn did, on his way out, did do some of that financial information. It was presented to us in our board packets. It's posted on the website, is in the meeting minutes. And perhaps we could have Dr. Tracy could have somebody send that information again. It was a memo with a chart that explains some of these different modeling out, different pay raises and information about the number of workers. So while we wait for updated information that the Finance and Operations Committee, I do request that somebody send to the entire board again the financial information that Mr. Penn did send us. Thank you.
He did a presentation on it.
We can't hear you, Madam President.
Can't hear you, Madam President.
I'll take over till you get your mic fixed, Madam President.
The Vice President will take it.
He said no. I know. Let's vote on that.
I'm in charge.
Mr. Wilcox, you need to step up.
Maybe not using your earphone, probably. Try without it.
Or is there a green light on your I don't know what kind of computer you have, but there should be something that's green lit or mute on. Mr. Wilcox, she's asking you to take over.
Take over the meeting.
Okay, can do. Looks like Mr. Goldson, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I do remember those presentations. I do remember those documents. And whenever we started getting into the meats and potatoes of it, we were always told we didn't have all of the information yet. We didn't have all of the part-timers. We didn't have all the different classifications. There was always some reason why we couldn't have a full discussion on this subject. And
I think I'm back. Can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
Okay,
So yes, I do understand. I do remember those conversations. I do remember some of that presentation, but I also remember that we couldn't have a full conversation on that because we didn't have all the information. So I hope that we eventually will get that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Dr. Joyner?
Hopefully we can send this back to the finance committee and resolve all of that and bring it back to the board. And that way, all the information that we would need would be there. So I think if we work through the committee process, we can do that.
So,
Mr. Conaway and then Dr. Tracy?
Yes, there's two issues on the table too. One is the part-time issues that Mr. Goldstein continues to talk about, and the other one is the inequities with the full-time pairs. So and we were spending a lot of time with that, and we did make some movement with the part-timers, and we just have to just continue to build off that. We are waiting for that report because that we did request that, and in our meeting with Dr. Tracy, she said her and her team they're gonna put something together, and they think that they could. It was a positive outcome with the part-timers. It was not a positive outcome with the full-timers because we were tampering with renegotiations and didn't want to reopen the contract. So there's two issues on the table. I just wanted to be clear with that. And the one with the part-timers is moving better than the one with the full-timers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conaway. Dr. Tracy?
okay, thank you, Madam President. Phil did an analysis of the power piece because there was a proposal to pay the powers, full-time union powers, working after school or before school, $18 per hour, as opposed to the current $14.50 per hour. That was what Phil worked out with the number of full-time powers we had across the board, is a 400 plus full-time powers. So that was the analysis that Phil did. And he did that based on not this current year, but based on the previous year information. That was what Phil tried to work out to show the comparison of prices. I think the board has one of those in their packets. And that's what we did not get any further on also, because you do that, there's what is called a ripple effect when you do things like that. So we explained to the union president, that's not something we could address at this time. It's not that like we have 20 or 40 powers, we have hundreds of full-time powers in our system. And then we would have to think of what is the funding source. Folks talk about the monies that are coming in, but please, as Ms. Hannon shared the categories or the parameters for these grants, we do get grants, lots of it, but these grants, there are parameters that govern the use of these grants. So we have to be cognizant of that. So everything would then fall on general funds. I also want the board to understand that when it comes to part-timers, it is not just general funds, it's also special funds. Some of our special funds are titled grants that do not get any raise. Instead, we see decrease every year, and Ms. Hannons will tell you that they're decreasing some of these titled grants, Title III, another one, which is priority. We see a decrease. And so the question would be, would we then, after we do these raises, get rid of some people to accommodate the raises that we do? It's very complicated. It's not as easy as saying, give a raise, give a raise, give a raise. So part-timers are not only on general funds, they are right across the system on IDA grants, on all of these other special funds that do not see increases over time, but see a decrease over time. So those are some of the things we talk about in our discussions.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Mayor Elicker?
Thanks, Dr. Tracy. I think we understand that it's complicated, but we want to see what the impact is on paper. Like we want to see something on paper. I'm not sure if you remember, but Mr. Penn's analysis covers part-time workers. Does it only cover general funds, or does it also cover special funds?
From my recollection, it was special general funds.
And are there people that are impacted by it, or who is impacted by this that's not covered under Mr. Penn's analysis? Because it looks to me that if we raise it to $15 an hour, For part-time workers under Mr. Penn's analysis, it would be $450,000 annually.
And then you cannot just raise general fund would be all part-time. You cannot just raise for general funds part-timers. It would have to be across the board into special funds. That's what I was trying to explain. But I'll have my team, when they get a chance, to do some comparisons and some analysis. Moving forward, this year we have 1,571 part-time workers that work with us this school year. So it right now, we are in summertime. Ms. Hannons and Juanita are working on shifting over with the city's information and hours. So a lot of things come to a standstill. Also, it's vacation time. People are taking their vacation. My office is practically empty. So as it is, we have people on vacation and in and out for vacation because of the summer component, but I'm sure we'll get some information out.
Do you have a general idea of when we might be able to get information?
I can't say now because I know Juanita is on vacation and Miss Hannons will be taking vacation shortly after. Miss Linda Hannons.
Do you think it could be by next meeting?
I can't say so because of the work that they're doing right now with shifting over. I can't explain it very much, but they're doing some shifting over. What is it called? Doing some ETS work right now to get things shifted over from one year to the next to set up their systems. And that is consuming a lot of their time right now.
I understand that folks are busy, but this has been something that's just consistently come up at board meeting after board meeting. We need to make some decision here.
Mm-hmm. I can only ask, Mayor, for that level of support. Remember, and I need to say this publicly, we are getting millions of dollars in grants, and these are going on the same people to manage and to set up accounts, the same individuals who initially that was not their task, but because we're getting these, all of this fall on them. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that they have to do. And sometimes I'm actually, and I made a proposal to pay them extra, which I've shared with folks to pay them extra, and that is stuck somewhere because I'm sure they'll be willing to go the extra mile to do things outside of the hours of their work time, but it's a lot of work. I've seen it. And one thing I'm not going to do is stress my staff out and then I lose all my staff. I'm just being candid and honest. So it depends on the amount of time it will take them to do it. Ms. Hannons was in a meeting with us and it's going to be up to her and Juanita, whether or not they can set aside, which I don't think they can, the work they're currently doing to shift over one system 1 year to another system to the new system for this year. I'm just being candid. But it doesn't mean we're not going to look into it and work on it. But I don't think we'll be immediately getting that right now. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't have the assistance.
Could we commit to have it for the following meeting if we absolutely can't have it for this next meeting?
I'm not making, I don't think I want to make a commitment and then it won't be delivered. I'll have to ask the folks who have to do this first to hear whether or not they can do this.
Okay, so just let me know by the end of the week when you talk to them.
Certainly will.
When we can look forward to.
Certainly will. Certainly will do that.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Mr. Goldson and then Dr. Joyner.
A quick question, Dr. Tracy. We approved a raise. Am I still on?
Yes.
Oh, we approved a raise for the for some employees for the summer program.
Yes.
Were those raises instituted? Did those folks receive those raises that we approved?
I have not heard any complaints that they're not receiving their recent paychecks.
Okay.
So that means it must have gone through. That was like a one-time only pandemic response in our summer school program.
Yes. Thank you.
Have you heard anything that they've not received anything?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Joyner? You're muted, Dr. Joyner.
I want to say this for the board. I understand Dr. Tracy's predicament. We have been down in fiscal for the last several years. We're down now in fiscal, and it would be irresponsible for us to be premature. I think that Mr. Wilcox has done a phenomenal job in finance, and that we should take it back, and that he should work with the staff. And when we can come up with something that is factual and that has a valid cost benefit, enough information for us to make a cost benefit analysis, we'll do it. But we can't overburden people because we have a very large and complex system to run. That's all I have to say about it. And hopefully we can let it happen in committee, and we can hopefully end the discussion and move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. So I would venture to say that we'll probably be having the same discussion next year around the same time. And that's unfortunate. I hope that's not true. But you know, history has shown that we keep delaying this over and over and over again. And I hear talk of delay again. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Mayor Eliper?
There's no vote on this, but I'd like to see some analysis by the next meeting. We're not asking for something incredibly detailed here, but an economy of scale of what this is looking like.
Thank you, Mayor Eliper. Mr. Wilcox?
We'll also have this as a discussion item on the next Finance and Operations Committee meeting, and we'll continue to have it on there until there's some resolution on this. And then also, just as a reminder that if I remember correctly, it's August 1st, Connecticut minimum wage does rise to $13 an hour, which if we have anybody working at the current $12 an hour or anything between that, they will be getting a raise. And if I remember correctly, it goes to 14 on July 1st of next year. So while this is happening, there's also some movement because of the state of Connecticut doing better than some other states in terms of not relying on the federal minimum wage, which is a joke, and is trying to address moving Connecticut's up to a more reasonable one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
Madam
Dr.
President,
Tracy?
point of correction.
Go ahead,
The
Mr. Bolton.
minimum wage will go up next year, I believe in September, not in July. I think it's a month after each year. So it was August this year, it was July last year, it's August this year. I think it's September next year, and so on.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Dr. Tracy?
I just want to make it publicly clear that we understand the nature of what we're dealing with. We understand that there are pay inequities in the system, which was not developed by us, but has been there. And we're working through these as we move on. And to the board, we are in the process of writing major grants that are due in a few weeks before people take their vacation, major individuals who are involved before they take their vacation. We have the Title I grants, the ESSER grant, the Title III grants, several grants that just come bundling in one. When the state releases in the e-grant system, we have to start writing or we won't have those funds. My folks who are involved in writing include my finance people, Ms. Hannons again, Pedro Mendia and others who are involved in these grant writing, and we are in summertime. That's what I'm trying to let the board understand where we are. These are the same people who have to be involved in these grant writing that we're asking to do things. We may think it is easy to just come up with a spreadsheet. It's not as easy as that. They have to dig into the different grants and see who is being paid, part-time, who is being paid this, who's being paid that. So it takes some time for digging into that. I just want to put that on the record to say that. It's not that we are pushing back and not wanting to do it, but in the time frame being required, it's not going to happen. Miss Hannons will be out on vacation when another one just come back from vacation. Little Miss Hannons is going to be out on vacation. Who is writing this big ARP ESSER grant? So we have a lot going on. We have Title I grants. It's a lot of grants that come all at once almost for us to take care of. If we don't spend time writing those, we don't get the monies for the system released to us. So those are important for us to focus on right now. Not that the part-time pay is not important. And so if we don't focus on that, we can't even think of part-time pay because we'll have no monies to pay them, period. So let's get our house in order first and get these major pieces out of the way.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Let's, like I mentioned earlier, let's connect by the end of the week so we can figure out a meeting date where we can have this information. Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. Because notwithstanding all that Dr. Tracy just said, this has been on the table for over a year. It's been on the table actually for several years, but this committee was formed a year ago. So to suggest that now we're in the summertime and there's not enough time to do it is unfair to all of those people who were expecting this to be happening a year ago when this committee was first formed. So I hear the excuse. I didn't know about the vacation stuff. I've been trying to book my vacation. Airfares are just nuts out there. I can't even get a rental car. So I know how crazy it is out there, how people are trying to get out after a year of being locked up. But there's still no excuse for not getting it done up to now. So I hope you and Dr. Tracy are able to work it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, that was the last item on the agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Joyner? Dr. Joyner? Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Conaway?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner? Not happening. Dr. Joyner, I am a yes, and so this meeting is adjourned. No, there's 2. Yes, we're adjourned.
Bye, everyone.
Good night. Bye, everyone.